All right. Well, we also want to talk about Countrywide. This is another Fox Business alert. Countrywide is disputing...
In addition to it being an election year?
A New York Times report about Countrywide, the nation's biggest mortgage lender. Now, the New York Times said that Countrywide has been subpoenaed for abusive fees for foreclosures. The key word in there, foreclosures. Rick Simon is a spokesman from Countrywide, and he says, quote, "I would point out the most serious error in the Times report, first referenced in the headline and repeated throughout the story. Neither of the cases cited in the story is a foreclosure case. These cases and the actions by the U.S. trustee relate to bankruptcy, not foreclosure." Well, I say it's all semantics, but whatever.
Thank you. Yes, exactly.
We're joined now on the telephone by Catherine Porter. She is the author of a study on Countrywide's practices as well as other banks. She's an associate professor of law at the University of Iowa. And attorney Rebecca Rose Woodland joins us here for happy hour in the bar to explain what the heck is going on.
COdy gets up
there.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Okay, let's first talk to Catherine. She's on the telephone there. And Catherine, explain to us, you know, I think a lot of this started from your study and then the media picked up on it. Your study found that some of these banks, such as Wells Fargo and Countrywide, are tacking on these fees, these unnecessary and maybe unscrupulous fees when people go into foreclosure or bankruptcy, correct?
Yep, my study looked at bankruptcy cases. So cases where families own their homes and they might be facing foreclosure or they might be behind several payments and they file bankruptcy trying to save their home. And what my study did is look at whether or not the lenders are complying with the bankruptcy rules and whether or not the fees and charges that they're claiming they're owed seem accurate and legal.
You know, I, as a consumer, as a taxpayer, I have a problem with the entire idea that you can keep your home by declaring bankruptcy to begin with. But the fact is that is the law, and that really is what you're looking at, right? I mean, you have actually gone through and found the actual data that shows that, I mean, there's so much so many banks out there layering on excessive and unscrupulous fees. Is that really what your report shows?
Yeah, what the report shows is that I looked at 1,700 bankruptcy cases, and in more than half of them, the lenders failed to attach the required documentation. They're just not following the legal rules that are designed to help out consumers and lenders and make sure that bankruptcy courts are awarding the correct amount.
And Rebecca, from you looking over these cases and looking over all the research involving this, is Countrywide breaking the law? Are these lenders breaking the law and adding on these fees when somebody goes into bankruptcy?
Well, what the judge has determined in that bankruptcy action, he said, I don't like how this looks. This looks fishy to me. So you know what, Countrywide? Show me your paperwork. Right. Let me see all the stuff that you've got,
and
right? I'm trying to talk in regular terms. Countrywide says, no.
They don't even show up in court.
They don't show up in court, and then when they get subpoenaed, the judge says, you didn't show up in court? Okay, I'm going to issue a subpoena, which means, here you go, here's a piece of paper signed by a judge, you have to do this. They say, no, still, they're saying, no, it's too broad, we don't want to give this information.
Now, that being said, this is a company, Countrywide is in utter disarray. They are laying off people. They're scrambling to do everything they can. You want them to show up at the court? They don't have anybody to show up at court.
Well, they have attorneys. They have to stand for themselves. By not showing up, it's basically saying, oh, all right, we'll just give in. The judge didn't like that. He said, really?
Mr. Willard, the bankruptcy debtors who are filing bankruptcy, they're cash-strapped too. I agree, Countrywide's had some legal problems, but so are these families struggling to hang on to their homes.
Struggling to hang on to the homes that they couldn't afford to buy. Let's keep it real over here.
That may well be true, but that's what bankruptcy law is designed to sort out. All the bankruptcy judge did was ask Countrywide to comply with the legal procedures.
But technically speaking, I don't think the bankruptcy laws were invented to enable people who put zero money down and borrowed 125% and got a giant home they couldn't afford, and now also they get to declare bankruptcy.
We're not passing judgment right now in this instance whether they should have gotten into it or not. What we're looking at specifically is whether these fees that the banks are tacking on are legitimate, that they're not breaking the law themselves.
Well, you know, the banks gave out the loans, so not that I'm defending or judging anyone, but they did pass judgment and they made the loans. So at this point now, what are they doing? They're making all these loans. Now they're tacking on fees. In some instances, 12, 13% of the actual what's outstanding, they're tacking on in fees that don't make any sense.
Even more dramatic, let me point out to Catherine Porter, who we have on the phone there, she found in one instance that the bank claimed the borrower owed more than $1 million when in reality, after they examined everything, it was $60,000. Come on.
Come on.
Sounds like some
I'd
white
be
creditors. I
pissed,
tell you
personally.
what, that's harsh.
Well, you know, what's going on here? I think that's what the federal judge is saying. Hey, you know what? Let the Justice Department get involved. If everything is fine, well, then give over your
nothing to say
paperwork.
about it, right?
Exactly.
Rebecca,
Fair
thanks
enough.
so much
Rebecca,
for
thank you
joining
so
us for
much.
Happy Hour. We're going to have her on again. And Catherine Porter, thank you very much for joining us
Thank you,
via
Catherine.
telephone. On tap next, putting profits ahead of patients. Who's right and who's wrong in the debate over paying for health care and making a profit off of patients?